People ever did who got shot or stabbed? What's the sensation like? Serious. I got shot in the hip. Felt like a burning sensation and I couldn't put any weight on that leg. The pain at that moment was a weird 6/10. Within minutes there was an ambulance. Lucky, I'm pretty sure they gave me a shot of morphine in the ambulance because the pain leveled out to about a 4 until they wheeled me into the operating room. I've been shot before and you don't feel a thing except the sensation of being punched, then about 5 minutes later it's a nearly unimaginable sensation of burning and pain I can't describe from the location, then you get cold and pass out, or so I did. It was an accident, a discharge from a friend of mine into my right arm. I passed out because I was scared, in pain, and hyperventilating, not bleeding to death, although I did lose a whole bunch of blood. It wasn't a lethal amount. Being shot once doesn't make me a doctor. I know nothing about gunshot wounds beyond they hurt bad and took a long time to heal. As far as the cold goes, I don't know why I was cold either or why it was burning so badly. I was too scared to really deal with that was going on. I have also been shot. That's exactly what I felt. It was almost like a warm shower on that one spot mixed with a slight burning sensation. Then the initial shock wears off. I wanted to pass out at that point. I didn't. Bullet wounds are like a weird burning sensation. Stab wounds sometimes you don't even feel. A brawl broke out at a bar one night. Some guy I didn't even know squared up on me and managed to punch me. So I thought, right below the ribcage. Someone pulled out a gun and started firing. I jumped on my crotch rocket and hauled butt out of there. A few minutes later, as I'm flying down the highway, I started feeling woozy. I pulled over and remember I couldn't stand. Then I fell over. Last thing I remember is red and blue lights followed by someone flashing a light in my eyes. Turns out a cop thought I was a drunk rider, and intended to pull me over, but I pulled off to the shoulder before he had the chance. He thought his suspicions were confirmed when I stumbled off the bike and fell on my back. He was in the process of turning me over to cuff me when I guess his hand was on my torso and he noticed it was drenched in blood. Turns out that punch was a stab and I was flying down the highway, leaking like a punctured oil pan. Long story short, the initial pain was minimal. The recovery, though, frick, my life. So, recovery. It was quite a while back. So all I really have now are some gnarly scars. I had surgery to repair the intercostal vein that was hit, along with the other damage. I caught multiple infections in the hospital. Even after they sent me home, I developed a hematoma that required a pump to drain. On the bright side, I was sky high through the majority of it. Being shot, which time? LOL. I've been grazed twice, taken a ricochet to the shin once, and have actually been hit once. In the moment, the ricochet probably hurt the worst. I was with some friends at a party sitting on the tailgate of a truck. Some drunken idiot decided now would be the perfect time to show off his new gun. I had no idea this was going on. As I'm talking to this girl, I hear the usual crack of a gun, a ping, then like someone took a tire iron to my shin before I could even process what just happened. The other incidents were as I was running from gunfire. I barely felt them and didn't realize until after what had happened. I got stabbed in the gut once. I was a dumb angry kid fighting with other dumb angry kids. One of them pulled a knife and just stabbed me. He wasn't really aiming, I don't think, and I honestly didn't feel it, really just saw the blade get pushed into my gut over by the hip. I froze for a second, then punched the guy and took off running. I probably made it about 10-15 feet before I collapsed just holding the knife. Luckily I had some friends there, they just kinda surrounded me while one of them called an ambulance. Last thing I remember was one of my buddies shouting something before I passed out. Woke up a few days later in the hospital and I couldn't bend my abdomen at all. I didn't really feel any pain, just a constant throbbing around the area, but it did hurt like heck whenever I tried to bend over. Doc said there was no major damage done, the blade missed my intestines by about a cm. Dang your G for still throwing a punch after getting stabbed. I got shot 6 times in a setup robbery type situation almost 10 years ago. Went and bought some weed and the guy I bought it from called his buddies that robbed me when I left. I got 1 in the armpit shoulder, 2 in the chest, 2 in the stomach, 1 in the hip. I didn't necessarily feel pain anywhere but my hip where the bullet lodged into my hip bone and cracked it. I was so amped on adrenaline that I actually got back up and walked a few blocks bleeding everywhere to where the hospital was. Scared the entire lobby of people all to heck. But it didn't really hurt until I woke up from surgery a few days later. The broken ribs from the 2 in the chest were arguably worse than anything else. Holy frick dude, and all over just some weed too. Happy you're still alive my man. That sounds crazy. I got stabbed 3 times with a serrated kitchen steak knife. Hit my spleen, stomach, and heart. It was dark. A little fellow came at me swinging punches. I was still trying to defuse the situation, didn't want it to come to a fight, so I blocked the punches by slapping them downward, but he had a knife in each hand. I didn't feel the stabs, just felt like light punches to my torso. He turned and ran. I looked down and saw that I was drenched in blood, walked a few steps and sat on the curb, turned to a panic-stricken woman next to me and said, "I can't believe how tired I am." And then, asleep I went. TLDR. I didn't really feel the stabs. I was stabbed on a bus in Seoul, Korea as a teenager, with a pair of scissors. I put my arm up to protect my face as that's where they were headed. It went straight in through my elbow. It burned. Like a searing pain. Who stabbed you? Shot in the leg twice. You don't really feel it at first, he not like a beanbag being thrown really hard and accurate. But then the pain really starts ramping up until they put drugs in you. Got stabbed by my dad once when he was drunk and angry about something. Can't remember what, because unfortunately he was drunk and angry a lot. I saw it coming and was terrified the whole time. So I'm not sure if that amplified or lessened the pain. I was stabbed in the shoulder and it wasn't particularly deep, but it felt like being stuck with a needle, only wider, if that makes sense. It wasn't a particularly pleasant experience, and it's certainly not one I'd like to repeat. The bare minimum I'd expect from a parent is to not be stabbed by them. Sorry it happened to you. Does a hockey skate count more of a slicing and dicing than the old and out? But still, hockey game. I was around 13-14, so right around that age where on the ice some kids have hit puberty and are dang near 6 feet and other kids who haven't and are in the 5 feet range. I was a scrappy kid on the ice but wasn't physically all that big. Just your average young teen. Open ice. This tall awkward player on the other team was lining me up in the trolley tracks. He was the kind of player whom wasn't entirely solid on his new height. He was lanky and did not have great balance. Anyways, he lines me up to hit me and I just drop my shoulder and take it. We both go down in a pretty solid hit, legs all tangled up and just a goofy few seconds while we got ourselves together. He got up first, stepped over me and planted his skate on the inside of my thigh and pushed off. None the wiser. I didn't feel much. Head was still ringing from the hit. Got up and skated around for another 15 seconds getting back in the play. Felt what could be best described as loose hanging meat, but it was still somewhat held together due to my hockey gear. I looked down and realized my white hockey socks were just covered in blood, which is the only reason I realized what happened. Before this, the pain was just a light stinging. I skated to the bench, yelled "oh crap" in a terrified way. The pitch and squeak of my voice clued the coaches in that something wasn't right. So they get me to the locker room, start taking my gear off to see how bad it was. A mother in the stands was a nurse, so she rushed into the locker room, takes a good look and turns green, which wasn't a good sign in hindsight. My inner thigh was just sliced wide open and hanging out. Pain kicked in, was not a clean cut due to the nature, so the pain was all over the place as the cut was pretty jagged. The cut itself when it happened wasn't too bad, but the aftermath was the worst after I realized I could see the meat inside my leg. Got stitched up fine. Came real close to the femoral artery, which would have probably taken things to more dire manners. TLDR. Got sliced open by a hockey skate. Filleted open. Hurt like heck. Freaked out. Got stitched up. Back on the ice 4 weeks later. People really underestimate how sharp skates can be. Was stabbed in lower abdomen by a very serious and very gnarly pair of shears. Was installing an air conditioner for a female resident at a group home. She didn't like how fast I was going because she was hot and went for my balls, but stabbed my pubic area near my bladder. It felt like a ton of pressure and mostly burning. I thought it was a curling iron at first, but I grabbed her wrist and smashed her hand on the wall. I saw the blood in the rest of the scissors and had an open drain for weeks while it healed. It took me a bit to realize this was an intentional stabbing by some crazy lady. Got stabbed in the leg once. It came out of nowhere and I didn't realize it till I looked down and saw the blade sticking out of my leg and I promptly freaked out. The pain hit me as soon as I saw the knife in my leg and recovery hurt like heck as well. I got stabbed by myself on accident. Ripped open an artery and severed a tendon. So I'm not over exaggerating when I say stabbed. The only thing I really felt was a cold sensation around the area. I didn't feel any actual pain until I was getting stitches because the doctor had to go pretty deep. Other than that, it really wasn't that bad. It was more scary than anything else. I had a bullet migrate out my scalp. No idea how it got there. Only felt it when it turned into a huge knot with a pimple in the middle. My ex popped it like a pimple and a bullet came out. It was an orgasmic sensation coming out. Still can't figure out how it got there. Must have been in there for years. Got stabbed stopping a fight. I was drunk so didn't really feel it. Almost went home but instead drove myself to the hospital where they performed emergency surgery. Had to have my spleen removed, some of my small intestines. I was in a coma in the ICU. For 2 weeks the doctors said I came within an eyelash of dying. So you're trying not to get stabbed. The recovery though was painful as heck. Not stabbed by a human, but a building. I was 11 and in the crappy town of Hastings, Ontario. Last game of the hockey tournament and 3 days before my birthday. I'm running outside the arena and running up and down the sides of narrow ramps when I misjudge a step. I don't know why this was thought of as a good idea, but there were rebar-like poles with sharp threads sticking horizontally from then building, right at the perfect height above my knee. At first it felt numb. Then I rubbed it and it felt weird. I started crying instinctively and went to Dad. He carried me to the van and set me on the seat. I was pretty fat as a kid, so I luckily had extra fat because when he cut open my pants and saw my gash, oh boy, it was an inch wide and 5 centimeters deep. No pain. 26-minute drive to hospital. No pain. When the needle to freeze my wound went in though, yikes. Oh, and they didn't freeze great, so I felt some stitches. I accidentally stabbed my own hand between the bones of my pinky finger and ring finger nearly all the way through. Didn't sever anything important and didn't bleed too much. Didn't really feel like anything either. If I knocked it or stretched the skin too much I could feel it, but there wasn't really any pain at the time or afterwards. A while back some kid brought a knife to school and was stabbing people subtly as he walked through the halls. One kid who got stabbed said it just felt like someone pinched his back, and when he reached back to feel where the pinch happened it was wet. WTF is wrong with that kid? I accidentally stabbed myself in the eye when I was young. It didn't hurt at all actually. It happened so quickly that I didn't even know what I did at first. 1 second I could see perfectly fine. The next I couldn't open my eye. When I tried to open my eye by my hands, I got a little lightheaded, so I decided to take a nap. At that point my brother got our dad. He tried to look at my eye, but it wouldn't open. He assumed an eyelash or some dirt got in it at first, but then realized it was something more serious, so he took my brother as I to a clinic. There, I had to wait over 2 hours to be seen. When I finally was seen, they just said I should go to the hospital. I was then rushed to the hospital and prepped for surgery. Today, my vision in that eye is blurry. It's like looking through an unfocused lens or trying to watch something in like 20p instead of 720p. I can see mostly fine around a room, but small details are gone. I've been stabbed through my hand before and it felt really hot and I started to get sleepy dizzy. I could barely talk or yell for help and I was on the ground while the guy with the knife ran away. The wind made it seem cold but also really hot and shaky. I don't remember what knife it was because he stabbed me and ran with the knife. I eventually fell asleep or fainted, then woke up 1 day later in the hospital with my friend and uncle there. My story: gunshot wound to my head. It was terrifying and I just assumed I was going to die. So even though I was panicked and unable to do much, I was still trying to calm people around me down because I didn't know what else to do. With the shock, I only felt pressure and a dull headache. There was a lot more pain later. Lost my hearing and the cranial nerve was damaged, so half my face couldn't move. Fortunately, the nerve recovered, but it took over a year to smile again. Permanent tinnitus, PTSD, and some barely noticeable scars are my takeaways. I think about the incident every day, so it's just a part of who I am now. I am very fortunate. Tried to break up a fight in a bar, got stabbed in the abdomen. Didn't even feel it at first due to adrenaline. About 3 minutes later one of my buddies noticed a lot of blood on my shirt. Still didn't really feel anything until the next day, but I blame alcohol for that. Dated a legitimate psycho. Started out as a vegan, then vegetarian, then started eating raw steaks because she believed she was a real vampire. Was staying at her place one night and I wake up to her pressure on my chest like someone punched me. I look down and there's a few links of a craft knife sticking out of my chest. Just felt like someone had punched me with one knuckle. Don't really remember what she was doing when I left. Was just in shock that I'd been stabbed in my sleep. I suppose this counts as stabbing. Screw through the foot. Dad was finishing the basement. Don't remember what he was doing but it involved long wood screws. I was 10 or 11 years old and at his heels, excitedly shadowing him. At some point I tripped over my dad's drill and caught myself with my hands a mere inch or two from breaking my nose on the stairs. That was close. I laughed. My mom, who was also there, started yelling, "Don't move." Looked back to see the tip of the screw poking through the top of my right foot. I didn't feel it, but seeing it, geez. And yes, my dad took it out of my foot by unscrewing it. Probably shouldn't have taken it out, but this is the same dad who leaned my bloody head over the sink and rinsed out the wounds with the sprayer after I hit the road face first flying off my bike. You'll be fine. TLDR. Screw attempted to drop me, didn't feel it. Also, don't remove the object you're impaled with. I once stepped on a rusty metal contraption at summer camp while we were going down an inflatable water slide, then running around back to the entrance, barefoot. When I hit it, it wasn't deep, and the thing was a metal plate with wires welded to it for some reason. Mom refused to pick me up, said I was fine. Dad had to leave his work early and get me to get a tetanus shot. Stupid anti-vax mom. I was shot with a .300 Magnum while bear hunting a month ago. I got hit in the right thigh, femur fracture, which is already known to be one of the most painful things as is. It feels odd. Actually, I didn't know what had happened at first. 1 second I was standing there, another I was on the ground unable to move. It was really confusing. The best way I can describe it is like it's warm, like a localized warm shower for a few moments. The shock set in pretty quick. I couldn't really feel the pain for about a minute and a half. That's when the other hunters started having to reach in and put pressure on the veins and arteries so I wouldn't bleed out. That hurt like heck. It's a very difficult sensation to describe, but it was a stabbing pain all over the wound, but the rest of me went numb because of hemorrhagic shock. I could feel my muscles shutting down and the blood being pulled. I went very lightheaded and they had to keep me from passing out. Your fingers start to tighten up and you can't move. It's a very scary feeling. Then they put the tourniquet on. Oh god. If I never feel one of those again it will be too soon. That was the most painful thing I had ever experienced. It has to go right above the wound and shut off blood flow so you don't keep losing blood. That made everything worse. And though I knew I needed one, it was so painful I screamed bloody murder when the EMTs put it on. Essentially, your body shuts down everything to try and save itself, but the side effect is that you can only feel the excruciating pain of the massive hole in your leg. As much as I knew passing out would make it 10x worse, I really wanted to. I can answer questions as well if anyone has any. I don't know if you would count this as stabbing, but it's pretty close. I was campus by with ex-boyfriend and my family around 7 years ago. I used his pocket knife to open a box and could not figure out how to close it. I handed it back open and he thought I handed it back closed. He set it on the ground. A little while later I knelt down and felt a stick poking my leg. I moved and saw a bunch of blood. I started screaming. It didn't hurt per se. It felt weird. I was kind of in shock. Ended up with an infection. I was shot in the chest by a Sandinista back in 1983. The round hit a rib, breaking 3 of them and puncturing my lung. It burned until they gave me a shot, bent the used needle on my collar, jammed a tube in my chest and hauled me out on their backs. It burns. Got stabbed in the finger and chest. I didn't really feel the stabs. I remember seeing the knife going into my chest kind of in slow motion and thinking crap, That's really bad. The knife came out and I was on the phone to emergency services at the time. I was screaming at the poor guy on the phone that I'd been stabbed. When the knife came out of my chest, all I really focused on was the blood pouring out of my chest. I was screaming at the guy on the phone, I've been stabbed. I'm freaking bleeding everywhere. Where are the freaking police? It's 3 AM. Where in the frick are they? Mind you, I live in a town of roughly 14,000 people. It took the police about 15 to 20 minutes to come from the time I called before being stabbed. The neighbor who stabbed me tried wrestling me for my phone when he climbed in through the window. After he stabbed me, he came back for a second go to try to smash my phone. I clutched that thing like it was a little life preserver. He broke my glasses. The ambulance guys came at that point. They told me sit down and wait. So I did. They kept checking in with me verbally to see if I was okay and not faint or anything. I was fine. So I just waited for ambos to be done with the other stabbing victims. When I got to the hospital, the doctors gave me some morphine and stitched up my finger. That was fine. One of the docs checked the depth of the stab wound in my chest with his finger. That was what really hurt. It was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. So TLDR, the stabbing itself didn't hurt. Probably because of adrenaline, but the doctor who checked the depth of the wound with his finger was the most painful thing. I got slashed with a razor in the face when I was younger from my cheek to my lip. You can feel your skin getting farther away from where the other side of the cut is, almost like relieve tension. Was in 7th grade at a high school track and field invitational with some friends when a fight broke out between a couple of schoolmates and a large group from another school. Although we were outnumbered, we were not going to let them beat the other guys up either. During the fight, I felt someone grab my shoulder and pull me back, and I thought the dude punched me in the back. The police came and broke up the fight and I went home. I got home, I went straight to my room and slept because I felt really tired. I woke up to my mom screaming and my dad sitting with me in the ambulance. I was stabbed in the end with an ice pick. While I didn't bleed out, I had blood in my back and filling the cavity near my kidneys and stomach. I'm 41 now thanks to the nurses and doctors, 8 months in the hospital, and my parents sending me to a military school afterwards. Being shot feels like a bodybuilder hitting you with a bat that has a red hot railroad spike sticking through it. I've had 12 years to think about it, and that sounds like exactly what I felt. Had my left ear almost completely cut in half. I didn't really feel it, just a weird woozy cold feeling. Then I went to sleep. I've stabbed myself, so this is probably a different kind of feeling, but it felt warm, really warm, more like a burn rather than immediate pain. Tweaker tried to stab me in the face with what I believe to be a sharpened screwdriver. I managed to block my face, but it went into my chest instead. The next 10 seconds I didn't feel it, then it hurt like a mother sucker, burning, itching, like a cut with habanero in it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.